What's going on, guys? Welcome to Under Two Capes. I'm Jared, and today we are going to be discussing Justice League runs. Now, what I mean by that is, and this is inspired by the fact that yesterday, what was it yesterday? The other day was the 1 year anniversary of the Snyder Cut. So I kind of wanted to do an episode just talking about the Justice League, which Justice League runs I would read if you guys are interested in learning more about. Was probably the basis behind Zack's storyline. So in the meantime, I am first going to swap out headphones. All right, that's much better. So now I'm going to talk about which Justice League runs I think you guys should read if you guys are interested in the comic and the Justice League comic adaptation. I know that I've done like SnyderVerse comic inspirations before, but now I'm going to go a little more specific. So we'll have some fun with that. So first I'm going to start with Geoff Johns' Justice League run. And that one started the New 52, and this was in 2000, I think 11 or so. It's immediately after Flashpoint. It was the first New 52 book to come out because the idea was they wanted to put the best writer and the best artist on a book, and that was Geoff Johns and Jim Lee, and basically established, okay, so here's the template for what we want with the New 52. And then you have the other books come out. So in this book, it starts off with like Darkseid invading. It's essentially the Apocalypse invasion. Now, what's interesting about this is that if you guys read the New 52 Earth 2 book, that was happening concurrently with the New 52 Justice League book. Except in that one, it was Steppenwolf invading to pave the way for Darkseid. So kind of the similar idea to the Snyder Cut. So anyway, in the book, it starts off with like, it's taking place like this one before there was like widespread acceptance of superheroes, meaning everyone was like very suspicious of these beings that had all these powers, which is more realistic than when we got in like pre-this. The book starts off with Green Lantern chasing a parademon, and he runs into Batman. We have the whole Batman does not have powers thing. Then they catch him when the parademon says for Darkseid, and then they're like, who is Darkseid? So then anyway, we get the Cyborg origin story, which is admittedly less fleshed out than it was in the Snyder Cut, but that's just because it's a comic. We had to get to the point. So they head to Metropolis, run into Superman, and then the apocalyptic invasion happens. And we have Wonder Woman who is exploring Washington, D.C., and then parademons invade there. And then the League forms with Aquaman showing up like a boss and saying, who's in charge? I vote me. Then they fight parademons, then Darkseid shows up. And then they fight Darkseid. Superman gets captured, but then rescued by Batman. And then actually what's kind of interesting was that in that they had sort of the teasing of the multiverse, and that's Superman's like, I saw all these different worlds. I saw all these different like versions of us, because remember, the apocalypse takes place outside of the regular multiverse. That's why in the Snyder Cut, you hear when he's referring to the anti-life equation, Steppenwolf goes, okay, so I found the anti-life equation, the key to all to the control of all free will throughout the multiverse. So that's what that was referring to. Then they escape, they fight Darkseid, they defeat Darkseid, and then they're hailed as heroes now, and the superheroes are starting to be more accepted, and then the Justice League is formed. In fact, before they call it the Super Seven. Anyway, then we have this writer named David Graves who writes a book, but his family is later killed, not by like supervillains or anything like that. Well, I guess indirectly by supervillains, because they were exposed to like him and his family were both exposed to like Darkseid's radiation or something like that, or apocalyptic radiation, and that gave them cancer and killed them. So, and the Graves' thing is that the Justice League didn't protect them. He sort of blames them. So at that point, he starts to like, he develops his own powers, and he starts to systematically take on the Justice League. He kidnaps Steve Trevor, which sets Wonder Woman in a rage. They have a fight in the middle of the public, and Cyborg teleports them away. They all decide to put away their differences for right now. They fight David Graves. They beat him. And then Steve Trevor is like wounded. He's in the hospital, where Wonder Woman says, okay, so we're going to ask for a new advisor, because Steve Trevor was essentially the liaison between the Justice League and the government. So they say we're going to ask for a new liaison because they picked up on that Steve Trevor only took the post as a liaison to be near Wonder Woman. Hence, which gets to my problem with Steve Trevor in the New 52, because according to my good friend Night Sky Wonder, and I trust her on this history, Steve Trevor, if you read like George Perez's run or any previous run of Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor was like more of a father figure. It was really in the New 52 they established him as more of a love interest, and then when they broke up, he became more stalkery. So that's part of why I can't stand the character. He was fine in the movie. The movie that was fine, but the comics, it's like, why? So then they break up. Green Lantern takes the blame for the Wonder Woman fight and says, okay, so if I'm off the Justice League, it'll give me more time to pursue my Green Lantern duties, so I'm good. He leaves. Then we get Superman and Wonder Woman at the Lincoln Memorial, and we've kind of talked about this scene many times on the show. They're on the Lincoln Memorial. Wonder Woman and Superman have this conversation about like not being like the others, not being like humanity, and feeling really isolated from humanity. Then they have an intimate moment. They kiss. This is why this scene perfectly explains why I think Super Wonder works more than Wonder Bat, because here's the thing. Ultimately, with Superman and Wonder Woman, they don't have to hold back who they are. They can be their full selves, because like it or not, Superman can't be his full self around Lois Lane, and Batman just doesn't work there with Wonder Woman because they're at two diametrically opposed parts of the spectrum. And I know people say, well, opposites attract, and that's one of the, like, I guess, excuses and pieces of evidence for why people say Batman and Wonder Woman works, because opposites attract and she can change them. Second off, but what I'm saying is, and the way I respond to that is that, first off, Batman is DC's cash cow as he is now. They're not going to change him, because if you change him, you risk messing up the formula that has created this, I guess, bat dependence, if you will, pun intended. So that's one reason why it won't work. Second reason why it won't work is because, yes, opposites attract, but not when they're that opposed. Like that opposed, it will not work. Absolutely will not work. Because remember, Tower Babel, Batman has a plan to kill every member of the Justice League, even in the New 52. Because in the New 52 continuity, granted it was in the Rebirth Justice League book, Superman, this is the pre-New 52 Superman, he's telling the League about how Batman had like contingency plans to kill every member of the Justice League. Simon Baz, I think it was Baz, turns to Batman and goes, do you have those? And then Batman's like, yep. And we have that whole conversation. So Batman has plans to kill, or at least immobilize, every member of the Justice League, including Wonder Woman. So that doesn't exactly set to a good relationship. Second off, Batman said it in the Justice League cartoon. You're an immortal princess. I'm a rich kid with issues, a lot of issues. It won't work. Even the comics, it said it won't work. So I'm not going into like a big thing on that. So then we get to volume 3 of the New 52 Justice League. In this one, it's called Throne of Atlantis. And this is more of like the Aquaman movie plot, sort of. So in this book, it takes place, first it starts off with the Justice League hunting Cheetah, and this is establishing, at least to Wonder Woman, that the League will be there to help her, because the Cheetah's out and she's hurting people, and then even the League is like, no, we'll help you out. She goes, you don't have to do this. And I was like, no, we're fine. We're totally fine helping you out. And that's establishing that they're a team, that they're there for each other. And that's why that's really important, because Wonder Woman's not really used to having to depend on others. And she doesn't really have to depend on others, but it's like, all right. Anyway, then they catch Cheetah, and it turns out Cheetah was not exactly what, because she was marketed as Wonder Woman's best friend, but she was actually kind of more of a, I guess, leech trying to like exploit Wonder Woman for her own nefarious purposes. And I guess that's the way that it works. And then Wonder Woman's like, okay, so how can I trust people and everything? It's like Wonder Woman's having a crisis of faith, and Superman comes and comforts her and says, listen, ultimately you're very trusting and loving. That's one of the things I like about you. And then they have a date at Smallville. They kiss. Then Batman's like watching there on the back computer like this. He's like, okay, interesting. And then we get these Throne of Atlantis part of the storyline, where basically what happens is King Orm is trying to, like in the movie, orchestrate a war between the surface world and Atlantis. This is very similar to the Aquaman movie, so I'm gonna like tell you how it's similar. So anyway, he orchestrates and this is different from the animated movie Throne of Atlantis too, mostly. So what eventually goes down is the Atlanteans invade. I'm jumping around through here. Superman and Wonder Woman have a date in the actually, no, wait. I'm skipping over important parts. So Dr. Shin, and I believe he died in this book, but anyway, he did die in this book. He was killed by the Drift, and the Drift are like Atlantean special forces. And then or at least they tried to kill him and the Justice League stopped him. I don't exactly remember, but the point is that he gets attacked. And then at the same time, the surface world falls under Atlantean attack. What this leads to is Superman and Wonder Woman showing up and trying to save the surface world from Atlantis. Then Aquaman kind of turns on the League briefly before he's like had some sense knocked into him. He beats Orm and is crowned the King of Atlantis. So he has to go rule Atlantis and be a Justice Leaguer, and then this establishes the Superman Wonder Woman relationship. And then we get the Superman Wonder Woman book, which we covered on the channel. Then what we get, and this is actually a really cool book. So volume 4. This is when, during the Throne of Atlantis, the Justice League called in like extra heroes to help, like Black Canary, Firestorm, and the like, and Atomica. She'll be very important later in the storyline. And so that's the whole idea with Batman going, I think we need more help. We need a recruitment drive. So they recruit the Justice. So they're starting to expand the Justice League ranks. And then Despero attacks. And the result is that the Watchtower crashes onto Earth. That's basically what I'm going to go with it. Then we get to the Trinity War. I believe the Trinity War. I'm just checking really quick. Yeah, the Trinity War. In the Trinity War, this is actually a really good storyline. It was my first comic book too. The Trinity War, and it's called the Trinity War for many different reasons. The main characters are the Trinity. The 3 Justice Leagues are featured in this book, and then it'll lead to Earth 3. So throughout the storyline of New 52 Justice League, there was this common through line of Pandora, of Pandora's box, trying to like atone for what happened. Because remember, if you don't know the story of Pandora's box, she was given a box to guard that has like all the sins, all the 7 deadly sins, and curiosity killed the cat. She opened the box and unleashed sin on the world. That's the basic behind the storyline. Then we get, so she's cursed with immortality. And so she finds this box. The box is basically like a skull thing. And with the box supposedly can only be opened by the most pure of heart or the most like evil or something like that. And anyway, she does it to Superman. It kind of turns him hostile for a moment, and then it doesn't work. It still isn't open. So she goes through like different DC members and like has them try to open the box, including Lex Luthor. Anyway, then through the through line, we have this mysterious being, this mysterious stranger, if you will, and he's assembling like the Injustice League, basically. It's not Lex Luthor because he's in prison. So what we get here is Superman as the Justice League goes to Kahndaq and encounters the Justice League of America. Now, a little context: the Justice League of America, or basically the team that was established if the Justice League turned evil, it was sort of inspired by the Superman Wonder Woman relationship, because everyone was nervous about what a child Superman and Wonder Woman would be like, and they had like flimsy excuses like just because Superman and Wonder Woman were together that they would end up becoming evil. I don't understand the reasoning. So moving on, then somehow Superman's heat vision goes haywire and he kills Dr. Light. So Wonder Woman goes in, so it leads to a battle, and then Superman says, "Lock me up." They do, and this leads to a battle. This leads to an investigation by Wonder Woman. She goes to the Justice League Dark and says, "We have to find Pandora because she caused all this." At the same time, the Justice League breaks Superman out, and they're going to try and find the box. Then we get this. It's basically following all three of the leagues. It culminates in a battle between the Justice League and the Justice League of America, with the box sort of poisoning people's minds. And then what is established is that sort of, so Superman is progressively getting more sick throughout the entire book. It culminates in Wonder Woman asking, "Okay, so wait a second. We all touch the box." And that's what's established. Everyone tries to open the box, and we didn't get sick. Why is Superman? So Element Girl, she turns into air and enters Superman's system to try and see what's up. Then it turns out there's a kryptonite sliver in his brain. Then Atomica put it there because she's the Atom from Earth 3. In other words, she was sent to Earth Prime from Earth 3. And Earth 3 is the universe of the crime syndicate where good is evil and evil is good. So then the box opens because, as it turns out, it was able to be opened by the Stranger, which is Alfred Pennyworth from Earth 3. And then he opens it, and then the crime syndicate, all the evil Justice League, come through. Then we get to Forever Evil, which is they take over. Batman has to work with Lex Luthor and the Injustice League to save everyone. He does. And then this leads to, and I'm skipping through this because there's so much that happens in the storyline. I'll be here for an hour, for an episode in and of itself. Then we get to my favorite storyline of all time in New 52 Justice League and in DC Comics in general, the Dark Side War. And this is ultimately one of the closest things that would lead to Zack Snyder's Justice League. In this storyline, the Anti-Monitor shows up. The Anti-Monitor was the being that tried to like wipe out the multiverse in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And then so he goes to war with Darkseid, and they actually have a big fight. Darkseid is killed. And you may be wondering, how does the Anti-Monitor show up? Well, it's by Darkseid's daughter. And this was also teased from New 52 Justice League season Volume 1, where you have, so Wonder Woman asked Darkseid during that book, this is Justice League Origin, "Why are you here?" And he goes, "I came for her." So what's really established is that Darkseid invaded Earth for Grail. Grail is Darkseid's daughter. And so so what happens next is Superwoman, who is the Earth 3 Wonder Woman, is pregnant with Mazas, or Earth 3 Shazam, who is also Alexander Luthor's child. At that point, she gives birth. She's killed by Grail, and the baby becomes a baby Darkseid. And this leads into the Justice League attaining the powers of gods. Like Superman falls into the fire pits of Apocalypse because it's supposedly solar radiation, so it could work. And what this leads to is it sort of teases the death of Superman that we got in the New 52. And then he becomes the god of strength. This is when he's like black and white. And you have Batman gets on the Mobius chair and becomes the god of knowledge. Green Lantern becomes the god of light. Flash becomes the god of death when he merges with the Black Racer. And Shazam becomes the god of gods. And Lex Luthor becomes the god of Apocalypse when he pretends to be Superman to take over Apocalypse. Then what it leads to is the Justice League team up with the crime syndicate because they figure, okay, the Anti-Monitor is not going to stop. He's going to wipe out all Earth. So, and Grail becomes the goddess of anti-life. And then what she does is she goes to the Anti-Monitor and sort of heals him, and he becomes Mobius again before he's killed. Yeah, he is ultimately killed. And the Justice League go to war against Grail. Superman unleashes all the solar radiation that he received from Darkseid, from the pools of Apocalypse, and reverts back to normal. Jessica Cruz, this whole time, this is her introduction. She became Power Ring because in Forever Evil, Power Ring, or the Earth 3 Green Lantern, died, and his ring sought out the most afraid host, and then it turned out to be Jessica Cruz. She was agoraphobic. The ring got into her. She became Power Ring. Then she joins the Justice League. She's trying to master the ring. That's where we get Hal Jordan show up. And then she sacrifices herself to save Cyborg, or to save, what is it, Cyborg? No, Flash, because Flash manages to temporarily separate from the Black Racer. Before the Black Racer can kill Flash, Jessica Cruz steps in the way and supposedly gets killed. But it turns out it wasn't her that got killed. It was Volthoom. Volthoom is the ring. The ring is actually a sentient being on Earth 3. And that was killed by the Black Racer. So the Black Racer leaves too because it has to kill someone. So it leaves. And then a Green Lantern ring shows up, and Jessica Cruz becomes a Green Lantern. And this is where we lead to, this is part of the origin for like one of the best Green Lanterns, I think, ever, Jessica Cruz. She's fantastic. I love her so much. Then that basically ends the new 52 Justice League, because everyone's fine, everyone's safe. The bad guys have been defeated. Grail promises to raise Darkseid to basically raise Darkseid with love. It doesn't work out because it's Darkseid. And that's Geoff Johns' new 52 Justice League. I just summarized a couple of years of comics in 20 minutes. That's the first run that I would read if you're interested in the new 52. If you're interested in comic book runs to get ready for Justice League 2 and 3. Another one that I'm actually going to physically get out is Grant Morrison's Justice League of America. And the reason why I'm saying this one is because in the storyline, there was this part called the Rock of Ages. And in that storyline, the Justice League basically is catapulted to the future. We see Darkseid took over. And this is where you get the whole Darkseid is thing. And this is extremely similar to the Zack Snyder universe, because remember, the Nightmare timeline, which is the future of the DCEU on his Earth, Darkseid kills Lois Lane, the anti-life equation takes over Superman, and then Darkseid takes over Earth. And then they have to go back in time and stop that from happening. That's another Justice League run that I would make sure I read. I'm still working through it myself. It's so much fun. There's a storyline where the White Martians show up, but they're disguised as superheroes, and they start killing the supervillains. In other words, they start doing what the Justice League won't, and their idea is they want to take over the planet. It's a White Martian invasion. So anyway, it has this great Batman moment where, okay, so Batman figures out that they're Martians because when his Batplane crashes and starts a fire, the Hyper Clan, as they're called, doesn't go and investigate. In fact, they avoid the fire at all costs. So he deduces, okay, Martians. Then what he does is he lures them into a trap by drawing a circle in an unknown liquid. I'm going to reveal in a second what that liquid is. So he draws a circle with liquid, and then the Martians go, what's that smell? And then Batman goes, okay, I figured out who you are. You're Martians. And I understand you don't like fire. So it turns out the liquid was gasoline. He lights a match, traps them in basically a fight ring. And he takes out his fist and goes, okay, let's go. And then he just destroys them. In fact, it's also really cool because the Martians basically make Superman think that kryptonite is near him. So he's weak. But it's psychosomatic. There is no kryptonite near him. And then Superman finally figures it out. He's like, wait a second, they're Martians. They're manipulating my brain. That means that kryptonite's not here. So he breaks out and does Superman things. So it's a really good run so far. I'm enjoying it. This is where you get like Zoriel, the Angel. Really digging it. Really like it. So let's see. What other Justice League runs would be what other actually DC storylines would I say would be beneficial? Obviously, there's Injustice. It's another Justice League storyline. Because remember, now when Superman becomes a dictator, because ironically Lois Lane is killed. Although in this one he destroys Darkseid. In fact, there was this one storyline I just read. It's in year 4. Year 4 is when the Greek gods show up, where Darkseid is teaming up with Ares to start a war between Superman and the Greek gods. So Superman shows up beats Darkseid, brings Ares to him and says, okay, so you're going to hang on to him for me. And know this, if you interfere with Earth again, that's it, you're done. Because remember, he invades first in year 1 and then proceeds to, and the Superman just annihilates every parademon, like kills them. And Batman's like, oh no. Because it's like, oh geez, this Superman's brutal, and he kills Darkseid's child Kalibak. This is part of why Darkseid specifically hates Superman. But anyway, Superman manages to put the fear of God in Darkseid. And it's pretty cool because you get to see a lot of like what an evil Superman would look like in Injustice. So that's another storyline that I think would work best. Obviously, another storyline that heavily inspires Zack Snyder is Final Crisis. And we covered that on the channel as well. In Final Crisis, Darkseid does take over using the anti-life equation, ironically. And in this one, this is the storyline where he spreads through the internet. Now, granted, it's a very hard story to understand, particularly the end where like Superman sings Darkseid to death, weirdly. And then this is the one where Batman is supposedly, air quotes, killed, where he's shot with the Omega beams and he's sent back in time. And this is kind of inspired by Zack Snyder, because if you notice in the history lesson scene, when man is burying the mother box, you see in the background, there's a dude that looks like Ben Affleck in like ancient human armor. So people have extrapolated that that's probably Batman in his Final Crisis. Plus the fact, and this is what inspired our Final Crisis episode, Zack Snyder on Thanksgiving posted like a zoom in on his turkey, but in the side is like the absolute Final Crisis book. So everyone's like, is he putting his? And then also anything associated with Final Crisis sold out. Like really, really, really sold out. Okay, so moving on, what do I think would be another good storyline to talk about? Also, I would say, honestly, I'm trying to think of what would be another good storyline to read to be prepared for Zack Snyder. Really just, also read Superman, Batman, Supergirl. What that is that, so in the early 2000s, DC did a series of books called Superman, Batman. This is where you get like Public Enemy or Supergirl. And Supergirl is actually adapted into a animated movie called Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. In that one, this is the reintroduction of the post-crisis Supergirl. Because remember, so Supergirl dies in Final Crisis. Then the Supergirl after that, a la the Death of Superman Supergirl, was an alien, like, shape-shifting clone called Matrix. It was horrible. So then Matrix dies, and then this is where we get the actual post-crisis Kara-Zor-El Supergirl. And she's introduced. This is also technically a Trinity book. It should be called Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. But anyway, she shows up and Clark sends her to Themyscira to be trained. She's kidnapped by Darkseid because Darkseid needs a superpowered being to lead his female Furies. And he figures a Kryptonian would be the best option. So he kidnaps Supergirl and basically tortures her into submission with Desaad, and that's how Darkseid attains control of all these different beings. He just basically tortures them until their will is broken, and then it can be remolded. We saw kind of this in the Superman animated series episode where he basically is tricked to think he's Darkseid's son via implanted memories. And in that storyline, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Barda go to Apocalypse to rescue her. And then we have this epic battle between, on one side, Wonder Woman and Barda. On the other side, the female Furies. And then there's this epic melee battle. And it's hinted that Darkseid also wants Wonder Woman to lead the female Furies, which honestly, that's been hinted at in DC a lot. And I would be totally cool with that if they did like an Elseworlds Wonder Woman book. I think someone did a fan fiction about that where she was captured by Darkseid. Instead of being raised as Wonder Woman, she becomes a female Fury. So anyway, then in that storyline, they rescue Supergirl and they leave. And then this leads to another epic battle between Superman and Darkseid, because Darkseid comes back to capture Superman instead, and Superman just completely destroys Darkseid because and they make Darkseid think that he killed Kara because it looks like the Omega beams hit her, but actually she was teleported to the watchtower before she could be hit. And Superman just teleports Darkseid, I believe, to space. And that's how that book ends. So that's another book that if you're interested in inspirations for Zack Snyder, that I would definitely go with. And then in terms of, basically I'm talking about any books that deals directly with like apocalypse. Those are the main books that I would definitely look to. Obviously, if we're talking about, and remember, no talk about the SnyderVerse can be complete without the Frank Miller universe, which I know some people are it's very controversial with some fans. I certainly love it because it's a new take on the DC universe, and it's a new great take. This one where we have Superman and Wonder Woman together. We have an aging Batman that kills people, hence Ben Affleck. This is definitely the inspiration behind Batman versus Superman. In fact, Zack specifically said that he's a big fan of Dark Knight Returns, rightly so. It's a great universe. And they sort of put an apocalypse, but mostly it's like anti-Kryptonians, because it's like in Dark Knight's the Master Race, Kryptonians from Kandor, a radical sect, like attack Earth, and this leads to the Justice League being reformed. So that's Frank Miller. I would definitely recommend checking that universe out because it's so good, particularly if you like really darker storylines. Then in terms of, let's see, what else? I'm looking at my DC shelf right now to see what other books would I recommend. If you like books that are like more of, I mean, another one I would check out is DC Universe Online Legends. That's like the storyline behind the DC Universe Online game. And what that shows is, Superman kills Lois Lane by accident, and then he goes off and broods like Zack Snyder. Then he shows up and just destroys Brainiac's fleet. So it's similar to, I'm sure, what would happen in Justice League 3, except instead of Brainiac, it would be Darkseid. And I guess that's it for right now. That's the books that I immediately recognize as good jumping on points if you want us to basically get the idea behind a lot of the concepts of the SnyderVerse. Now, not all these picks that I just made are directly like, this is what inspired the SnyderVerse. But what I'm trying to do is, particularly for you fans that have just seen the movies and not seen the comic books, just so you can get introduced to the idea of like the anti-life equation, more Darkseid taking over, the Justice League, just so you can approach these movies and have a better appreciation of them. Because I find that as great as the Snyder Cut is and the SnyderVerse are, is so much better when you actually understand the comics too. Because then you get, oh my gosh, that's what that is, that's what that is, that's what that is, I know what that is. So that's what this episode's mainly meant to be. Now, for the rest of this episode, I'm just going to talk about the Snyder Cut event that we just had. It was very successful, over 500,000 tweets. That's the first bit of success that we had. Second off, and this is perhaps the most significant, is the Green Lantern picture. Besides looking very good and like flawless, because I'm coming from the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie and the suit looks really stupid there. This one, oh my gosh, it looks like the comics John Stewart, like the most comics accurate John Stewart outfit, besides the rings on the wrong finger or hand or something like that. But here's why that picture is so significant. The reason why Zack Snyder originally showed it on his phone is because he couldn't like mass release it to the public. Legally, he couldn't because Warner Brothers wouldn't let him. Now, here's the thing, though. Now, because it's significant that Wayne T. Carr got legal permission to release it, because he needed that. And what that leads me to think is that there's already conversations behind the scenes about restoring the Snyderverse. They can't make any announcements again until the merger is done. But most likely what they're going to say is that as soon as he's ready, we're ready for him to come back. So, and what this shows is there's like so much evidence that the Snyderverse is being restored. And remember, and chiefly that picture, because remember the reason, because, okay, I'm trying to find my words here. Zack Snyder did not have permission to release that picture originally. That's why it was on his phone. Now he has permission. Now what that indicates is that there's sort of a change in mindset at Warner Media, most likely inspired by the merger. So they're trying to make Zack Snyder fans happy, which leads to Snyderverse being restored. Because after all, if the other day proved anything, there's a demand for the Snyderverse. And what this also means is that they're more likely to have a conversation about restoring the Snyderverse now because they allowed him to put out the picture. Now I'm rambling, but I'm just going to move on. So we have the picture. Then we have Zack posting two things on Vero. I'm going to pull up the Vero tweets thing right now. The first one was him saying, "Believe, and you did." And it's like the Snyder Cut trailer of Darkseid. It's the black and white trailer of Darkseid bringing the axe down. That's the first thing. Second off, the other part is he posted this thing by AFSP that's basically the AFSP logo, and it says around it, "The world became a Justice League." And that's a reference to his storyboards, because in his storyboards, he basically said that in the final battle, once again, I've said this is going to be the Justice League, the Armies of Man, the Amazons, the Atlanteans, basically every faction on Earth unites against Darkseid, and to quote the storyboards, the world becomes the Justice League. That's what that leads to. So again, he's making all these references to the Snyderverse being restored. And remember, he was making these cryptic tweets immediately before the Snyder Cut was announced. Zack Snyder's known for making really cryptic tweets that hint at future stuff. So what this indicates to me is that he knows that they're going to allow us to do it, that they're going to allow him to do the rest of his two movies, because once again, all they'd have to do is just film back to back and then they're done. It's probably going to be when his contract with Netflix is done, because Zack does not want to jeopardize any of his other stuff. But most likely, but once again, that's going to be in a couple of years. So I think in a couple of years, we'll have an indication of what Snyder is going to do. Furthermore, it indicates to me that again, the Snyder Cut is going to be restored, and then it indicates that it's going to be a good time to be a DC fan, because a lot of the DC movies that have been coming out, I've enjoyed. Like I enjoyed the Batman, I enjoyed Aquaman, I enjoyed Shazam. I'm excited for Flash. So there's lots of DC content to come out, and then with the Snyderverse restored on HBO Max, it's just more DC stuff to consume. So I'm totally fine with everything else happening. I'm not saying cancel the other projects. I'm just saying just give us this too. We want this. This is more return on your investment, massively return on your investment, because everything they've done, pretty much everything that Warner has done since the 2017 release of Snyder, ignoring the Snyder Cut, has been a failure. Well, I mean, for the most part, because you have the three movies that have been a godsend to them were Aquaman, Shazam, and Joker. I remember Warner didn't want Joker released because they felt it wouldn't do well. We all know what happened with that one. But most of the other movies have not done well, have had fledgling success. And remember, also, if they had just had faith in their director, like Marvel did, because remember, in Marvel, pre-Avengers, they weren't that successful, all these movies, Iron Man aside. Then we had Avengers, and then it was massive success. If Warner had faith in Snyder, we would be pretty much done by 2019, 2020. In other words, Justice League Part 2 would have come out in 2020, latest. Then they would have rebooted the universe and then done whatever they wanted. In other words, Snyder was not going for the long run. He was just going to tell this epic Lord of the Rings style storyline and then just move on. If they had just done that, we would have had all these great movies and then we would have been done. Unfortunately, we know what happened, but most likely it's going to lead. We're going to get that now. We're going to also get the Ben Affleck Batman series because I think that would be a good thing for Warner Bros. To do. The reason why I think that would be good is because it gives Warner like something to keep the fans interested while they wait for Zack, and then while Zack films. Because what they could do is break up the Ben Affleck Batman thing into a series that we can have it go for much longer. Then what they can do is release that periodically. And then that keeps the fans interested in the SnyderVerse and until Justice League Part 2 comes out. Then they can do another Heroes movie that was supposed to come out as a series. Then they can do Justice League Part 2. Anyway, that's the way I see it happening. If you guys have another estimation on how you see the SnyderVerse being restored, drop in the comments. I'll be sure to check it out. So I think that's a good place to leave it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Now, in terms of where this channel is going to go in the future, just wanted to give you guys an update. We're going to be doing more live streams. It's going to be more of a periodic thing because I certainly had fun on our last live stream where we had a Snyder Cut watch party. Maybe we'll do another watch party with like Man of Steel and BVS. That would actually be really fun, and we can talk about the scenes as we go along. Martha scene specifically. Then we can do more live guests where we debate comics. We might do more of the debates as live things because that way we can get the audience engaged in the content. Then maybe we'll do the audience. We'll do audience like trivia. In other words, we'll do our trivia contest normally, except it'll be like a live stream. So, and then also what we'll do is occasionally we'll do live streams with actual guests so you guys can ask questions of the guests. But anyway, we have lots of fantastic content planned. In terms of UAX, I'm still thinking about what I want to do with that because we have been getting more success doing like the weeks of one topic, like the week of Snyder, the week of Batman. We got like tons of views from that. So I'm still thinking about what I want to do with UAX. So that show is kind of on hold for right now. In terms of Under 2K and Comics League content, we're going to try and give you guys regular content on at least Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Occasionally, we may be able to do every day, but for right now, just expect content on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if content does not come out on like Monday, expect it Tuesday. In other words, we're going to make sure to give you guys regular content throughout the week because we want to make sure you guys are watching and are engaged with our content. And then in terms of, let's see, I talked about live streams, I talked about that, and we're gonna start making t-shirts and marketing items too. So if you guys are interested in that, drop in the comments. Anyway, I think that's a good place to leave it. We will see you guys next week for, probably this week because it's Sunday at the time of this recording. We'll see you guys this week as we talk about Snyder Cut content. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time. All right, bye-bye, everyone. Stay heroic.